There are issues there that we've discussed in over the last month and a half or so, or 2 months involving this case relative to charges being filed against David Sweat. And those are in particular that, and not that I would think anything of this nature would happen, but he's presently obviously serving a life without parole sentence. I cannot hit him any harder than he's been hit with a life without parole sentence. Down the road in the future, maybe something occurs with his appellate aspects of that conviction. Not that we're anticipating that at all, but the bottom line really is that to proceed with this investigation, to indict Mr. Sweat with the escape in the first degree will allow the Department of Corrections to enhance the services that they can provide Mr. Sweat. In other words, special housing units, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. With this conviction, that will enhance their ability to sustain that type of penalty or sentence upon Mr. Sweat. And so that's the primary purpose. I'm not anticipating that that will be a long, drawn-out proceeding, but I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Sweat directly. Yes, sir. I don't really want to get into that, but we discussed the charges that he's already been charged with, proceeding by Superior Court information, similar to what we did this morning, and have him enter a plea to those charges, and then an appropriate sentence that myself, the attorney for Palmer, and the court would accept. So.
Why not wait until the...
We feel that relative to that charge, the conspiracy to commit murder, we have evidence to support the charge. Whether that evidence would be supported beyond a reasonable doubt at trial is an issue. We're alleviating the prosecution of that charge, based on a number of issues, including statements by Joyce Mitchell, statements by David Sweat, and the evidence that the New York State Police were able to resolve during execution of search warrants in their 2-month investigation to this date.
Andrew, what other comments was David Sweat able to, or what other statements did David Sweat make that corroborate some of the things that Joyce mentioned?
As you all know, based on the information that's come out during the investigation and reports of statements that Sweat has made, his contact with Joyce Mitchell was obviously extremely limited from the fall of 2014 through June 2015 when the escape occurred. So he was unable to corroborate a number of the statements that Joyce Mitchell made relative to her interaction with Richard Matt, because it was Matt and Mitchell's collaboration, if you want to call it, to the actual escape. He did provide information. I think the question may be better answered by Major Guest relative to those statements, because I've been hesitant to discuss David Sweat's statements in detail because his case is still obviously pending grand jury presentment. So.
You do not say no one else was directly or indirectly implied in the escape. What about the 12 people at Dannemora who've been suspended? Does that implicate them somehow?
It does not implicate them in any way. Joyce Mitchell has not implicated them in any way that I am aware of, and David Sweat has not implicated them in any way. We can only take for purposes of our investigation, face value of what David Sweat has told members of the New York State Police, and he has not, to use the expression, he has not thrown any correction officer at the facility at all under the bus. And the timing of David Sweat's apprehension and the release of the 3 supervisors and the 9 correction officers, although the timing would appear to be relevant to David Sweat being apprehended and statements he was making, it's my understanding that there's no direct correlation to that, other than those are individuals that the Inspector General and the Department of Corrections made a determination to release.
Just to clarify,
don't anticipate charges of anybody else involved in the prisons.
Correct.
Mr. Wylie, can you just tell us how you feel today, like after wrapping this up without a trial, is life easier, or where you go today?
I mean, life's not easier. This is my job. This is what I was elected to do. I serve the people of Clinton County and the state of New York, and whether she pled out today or not, we would proceed with the prosecution of the matter. Am I glad that one aspect of this matter is over with? Definitely. But we were ready to proceed with whatever charges we had to with grand jury and trial if necessary. Nothing?
Why not wait until the IG's report comes back?
Sorry?
Why not wait until the IG's report comes back to pursue these charges?
Because I'm being updated from the IG's office as to the relevancy of my case that occurred here in Clinton County that I'm involved with, and I feel confident that based on the representations by the IG's office that what we did today relative to Joyce Mitchell is in the interest of justice. And as far as any other charges that may come out of the IG's report, that will be for another day to deal with.
Mr. Wylie, there's already been some surprise generated that you decide not to pursue the conspiracy to murder charge. Is
Right.
it just not a strong case?
As I indicated in earlier, I cannot convict Joyce Mitchell just on her statements alone. All right, and because of the facts that we had before us to prove such a charge beyond a reasonable doubt, it would have been extremely difficult. Would I have been able to go forward, present a case to grand jury, return an indictment against her on that? Yes, it's very possible that we could have done that based on the evidence that we have. But to be able to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt, I have an ethical obligation to my job, to the people here in Clinton County and New York, to act as ethically as possible as we can in a case of this nature, and that includes making a determination on what charges we can prove and what charges we can't prove. And if I believe we'd have a difficulty proving a case, then there's no reason to go forward with that indictment.
That has not corroborated that part of the plot?
Correct. Anyone else?
Can you tell us anything about the type of facility that she's likely to spend?
I don't. I mean, I'm familiar with several of the facilities in the state that house women, but as far as which one it would be, she's not charged with a violent felony, although she led to obviously having 2 violent felons escape from the prison. That will be subject to the Department of Corrections.
If Matt or Sweat had killed someone during their time on the would we be standing here today, or would we definitely?
I don't think we'd be standing here today with a plea, not at all. That would have enhanced our outlook on how we would have dealt with Joyce Mitchell. Correct.
Mr. Wylie.
Any other questions?
Mr. Wylie.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Mitchell's actions ultimately sparked a multi-million-dollar manhunt that affected the state of mind and peace of mind of everyone around here. Are you at all concerned about the reactions of the people of Clinton County that you serve at all with
Right.
this plea agreement?
On how Joyce Mitchell's involvement
No, on
affected?
settling on the plea agreement.
Well, I feel that we resolve this matter in the best light as possible, not only for the people, but for the people here of Clinton County and the state. I feel that, yes, there is a large financial obligation that the state has incurred as a result of the escape, and she was directly, was a direct contributor to that. I guess I could have asked the court to impose a restitution figure on Ms. Mitchell today.